What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'll be making a full review for the final Empress banner that brings final Empress, an offensive and defensive buffer, Darius cover tank that can also block damage, and Candy, the buffer for two different status. Let's go here for some more details and I'll start talking about Final Empress since she gives a name to the banner. And well, she has 115% STR. As you can see, she can do damage, but she was not designed to be a main nuker. Her agility is 112%, so it's actually very high because she can heal and sometimes it's needed to go first. Her endurance and will are good. Will is better than endurance. It's not gonna have any problem. Her love is also a little higher than usual because she can heal. Well, for passives we have Resolve of the Might. She starts the fight with 11 and gets 2 PP by the end of a turn. So she has 5 PP per turn, and actually more than that because she has Imperial Unison that decreases damage taken for all allies by 10%, doesn't matter if they are alive or not. And she also gets 1 PP by the start of a turn, while also applying Heat Up, increasing damage potential by 5% for the whole fight every new turn for a max of 10 turns. That means that by turn 1 you have 5%, by turn 10 you have 50 for you and the party members. Because of the BP on start and the BP on the end, she gets 60 PP per turn, and that is actually very interesting. The last passive is called Great Sword Finesse and increases damage by 30%, and damage taken will be reduced by 30% as well. Now, for the skill animations, the first one is called Bright Moon. This is a spell that recovers, revives, and also applies Heat Up medium, increasing damage potential by 10% for the whole fight. So, since it revives, it can be used to just help in some situations where someone just got killed and she has a very high agility. That means that that specific character will not lose LP, and for free as well because it does not spend LP, it's just 3 times per battle. She's going to need to use an elemental weapon in order to make the heal even better. Then the skill number 2 is called Down Moon Blade. This is a 7 VP skill with both Slash and Sun, and it's full AoE with C power. That is not important, but it applies 3 different things. Morale down medium, decreasing damage taken from enemies by 25%. That's right. Then morale up medium, increasing the damage potential of your party by 25%. Both will last for 2 turns. There's also an extra thing here called Action Order Up that will increase the speed of your actions but does not increase your agility. It not allow you to evade, but it allows you to go before the enemy most of the time. The only thing that stacks is Action Order Up, but you should not try to stack this since it's not relevant. You should use this every 2 turns, okay? 7 VP, she got 6, you can use this with ease. Then the last skill is called Parasenelli, and this is just a triple S attack with Slash and Shadow, that's right. And it will recover her HP by around 1.4 thousand. Well, this is just so that she does not need to be self-healed and can do some damage, especially on Saruin squads. If you are on a squad with Saruin, well, she's gonna recover 7 BP per turn, that's right. And she can still give lots of support to Saruin squads. She will give all the heat ups, she will give the morale down to the enemies, the morale up will work for Saruin squads, and she can even give this heat up effect for, well, anyone you want, even Saruin himself. But I don't think Saruin needs this as much. Saruin actually prefers to receive STR buffs to increase his potential. But you can do this for other damage dealers in the party. So, she does have some interesting setup here. When you are on a boss fight, you're gonna open with Dark Moon Blade to just apply the morale up medium. Together with the 5% heat up from turn 1, you have 30% increase, and then the morale down medium together with 10% damage reduction from her passive. You already have 2 layers of defense. And then on turn 2 you can kind of cast Bright Moon and make someone stronger, even if it does not need to be healed. And then go back to Down Moon Blade, so that you have this effect active at all times. But actually Final Empress is much better if you have Inheritance, and I'm gonna discuss this right now. The best Inheritance comes from her Christmas style. Well, this is a very popular style that got released in December past year. She has a skill called Christmas Moon that costs 12 VP, pretty high, huh? It's fast, and grants defense boost medium, decreasing damage taken by 25%, but it lasts for 4 turns, so it compensates the cost. So what do you do with Final Impress? You open the fight, you apply Morale Down, so you have 2 defensive layers. Then on turn 3, you use it again. Then on turn 4, you have enough BP to use Christmas Moon. So by turn 4 onwards, your Final Impress will be able to keep that Morale down, keep that Christmas Moon, and still increase the damage potential slowly, 5% per turn, while also applying Morale Up. So Final Impress is actually a very good support that comes extremely close to our best support right now. That is Gustave. In his tank version, Gustave has access to Screw Guard, decreasing damage taken at all times by 20% as long as everyone is alive. And then, from his Painter style, you inherit Let's Paint. This skill will apply attack boost on turn 1, this lasts for 4 turns, defense boost as well, and then on turn 3 it will apply Morale Up, very large, increasing damage by 40%. Will also apply a Guard Up medium that has virtually the same effect as Morale Down medium. And it will also buff Endurance, give 2 BP to the party. And on turn 4, he always have an increased defense boost and increased attack boost. Gustave cannot keep his Guard Up active at all times, but he at least has defense boost. Because he gives BP to the party, he also helps some people with problems with BP generation. And, well, he does not do damage, but it doesn't really matter. You're not gonna care too much about the damage of Final Impress as well. Gustave is still a little better, in my opinion, because of everything stacking here, and he is not as slow as Empress. Empress can reach 50% on 10 turns, and can give 10% to someone else, but in the end, there are turns where Gustave increases damage by 80%. That is awesome, and it happens by turn 4, for example. So you can kill bosses faster if you need with Gustave. And Final Impress is just around the corner, the best option right after Gustave. Now, still talking about inheritance, there is another one that is interesting. Well, it's becoming less and less useful, to be honest, but it's still very gimmicky. Imperial Shield, this negates all damage for 1 turn. Well, in the past there were nukes from bosses that would totally kill you if you didn't use Imperial Shield in some specific turns, because the game was unbalanced. Now we have so many types of defensive layers that you don't really need Imperial Shield anymore. You can survive just applying more and more defensive methods. And if you still need something like Imperial Shield, you can inherit, since she gets 6 BP per turn. Using it, it's not much of a problem. You can use it 2 times since her heal does not use LP. Something that we had a problem with this version of Final Impress. If we wanted to inherit the heal spell, she could only use it once, because, well, she needed to use the Imperial Shield. Another interesting inheritance comes from Quadruple Moon Strike. This attack here hits 4 times, and it's basically a 4S attack. It uses 11 BP, but you recover 4. That means that in the end you only spent 7. So your Final Impress can actually do very respectable damage with 4S attacks almost every single turn, and scaling to become even stronger. Of course, she still does not beat the likes of Leon, the likes of Schuzer or Silver, but for a character that does lots of support in the party, well, I guess this is good enough. But you have to forget about inheriting the defense boost from the Christmas style if you like her to be offensive. Besides Gustave, there is another character that also competes with Empress, and that one is the latest version of Undine. She has a perfect cycle to use Tempest Veil. That is a skill that buffs defense boost and Guard Up medium, so 2 defensive layers of 25% damage reduction. She's also pretty defensive in self buffs. And she's an improvement over Barbara, another character that can apply 2 different defensive layers in her latest style, with Allegria's Fascination that applies defense boost and Guard Up. Well, but to be honest, Empress is a very welcome upgrade for those that only have Barbara, but not for those that already have Undine or Gustave. Well, Final Empress is actually very impressive. She has very nice offensive and defensive support, although a little slow. For both roles she takes some time to build up, and that kind of hurts her a little when competing versus Gustave and the other characters that can keep that up from turn 1. But still, she got pretty close of receiving an OP grade with the inheritance, but I believe she deserves a triple S only. The next version of Final Empress is a support again, and she has this skill that heals 3 times very small, and she has a good BP generation. I think she can get close to the potential of a Steel Blade Light user. And she has this skill that applies 2 types of passives, one that evades once, the other one that has 25% chance to evade, and it lasts for just 1 turn. It's kind of messy, I think in global they will change as well, and she buffs resistance versus 2 different status, that is Confusion and Stun. Well, I do believe this character will receive a welcome buff, but at least you can know that she has a future. The next character is Darius, and well, this time he is extremely defensive. His damage was kinda cut, only 91% STR, 116% endurance and will. For will, this is amazing. He's likely not to get inflicted with ailments and will take very low damage anyway. Agility is low like most tanks anyway. The other status don't matter too much. Now, for passives, the first one is called Super Guardian. When an ally is being attacked, he has a 37% chance to take this ally place and reduce the damage. And when being attacked, he will receive 1 BP as well. That means that when he's protecting someone, he will also charge BP. That's something interesting. Then the second one, Conviction. By the end of a turn, he gets 1 BP and starts the fight with 12. Well, most of the characters are getting the contrary, starting with 11 and getting 2 by the end, but okay. Then he has Iron Wall Defense 7, that decreases damage taken by 50% at all times. Does not rely on resisting or anything, so when he is protecting, he will already decrease because of Iron Wall Defense. So damage will be very low, pretty similar to what Mask receives, but even lower than Mask. And remember that sometimes a character will receive like 600 damage from an attack, and when Mask gets in the way, he receives 80. That's what's gonna happen with Darius when he triggers this cover. Now, for skills, the first one is called Solid X. This is a 1 BP skill with E power only that grants himself a Guard Up Small that decreases damage taken by 12% and will also recover his HP by around 200. Well, the heal is welcome, but I don't think he needs. If you have an AoE healer, he's gonna be healed enough all the time. It's also Slash and Shadow, so 2 elements. This is interesting for inheritance to his past style. Then the second skill is actually pretty amazing. Blocking Command. This is a support fast skill that will give everyone in the party damage block for 2 times. That means that it doesn't matter how many turns passes, even if wave passes, you will have these 2 damage blocks in your character, and when he gets 2 hits, it disappears. Well, it only costs 4 BP, that means that he always have this available as well, different than Final Empress that needs 9 BP to cast her shield. But here it comes a discussion. Which one will be better? Final Empress will negate all damage in that specific turn. That means that if you have multiple enemies, you're gonna get hit more than 2 times. If a boss attacks 3, 4, 5 times, well, Final Empress always wins. But some bosses only attack 1, 2, 3 times. In these cases, well, Darius could be interesting. And he is even better versus bosses that likes to use single target nukes, because they may just choose to attack him more often because he can protect. But the other people will have their blocks, and when they get hit by an AoE or by another nuke, well, this is gonna protect them as well. So very nice skill that can be used as a gimmick, although I have not been using Final Empress shield as much anymore, because right now we can apply so many defensive skills in your party that you kind of don't need this anymore as much as we needed back then on tower events and on very hard challenges, but it's nice to have. Then the last skill is Schwarz X. This is skill that just deals slash and shadow damage with triple S power and applies defense boost. Large effect. decreasing damage taken by another 35%. So see that if you want to start the fight which was X'd, you are going to decrease damage by a lot. You have 50% from the passive, then you have 35 from this, and if you cover, you decrease it even further, and then on turn 2 you use solid X so that you have guard up as well, and then eventually you go back to use Schwarz X again. So it's very nice, right? It is, but Darius misses on something very important that Mask has via inheritance, and that one is taunt. Yes, Mask has taunt, and some other tanks has as well. And taunt is more important than cover because it will allow your tank to be more targeted anyway. It does not need to trigger the cover. But cover is still good because when your enemy uses AoE attacks, well, if you cover one specific character, it means that only 4 characters of your party got hit. But still, I don't know if that's very important, because when you are healing everyone by the same amounts of value. This is not something much interesting anymore, in my opinion. And Darius can also protect people that does not need to be protected, especially on Remembrance. If you are bringing Strumnikin, Darius can get in the front of Strumnikin. Of course, he's gonna get BP. Nice, he needs BP to keep his cycle. But then Strumnikin will not buff STR, Endurance, and Will, and if he does not buff those status, he won't do as much damage and he won't survive to become immortal. So, I don't know, it's interesting by design, but you may actually want to use Inheritance to his first style to remove that cover part from himself. So yeah, if you have UDX Darius, well, he is very defensive already because of Action Switch and self-healing. He has kind of costly skill to keep his Action Switch at all times. Drain X costs 3 BP, but it does cover him, but he may not need. So now with your 1 BP skill, you have a better rotation. And you can also just inherit the shield for damage block and use with this Darius. So you use him as a damage dealer, and when the time comes, you use the block shield to protect the party, especially on Remembrance battle. So I like the versatility of Darius having access to offensive and defensive support, but the second Darius does not outclass the first. You actually want to have both depending on boss behavior. But some people may just say, of course, Darius is cool and all, but, well, Strumnikin can solo, right? He can, but he won't be able to solo all content, I guess, so it's nice to have alternatives to, well, work when you need to use X or Remembrance. Now, if you want to use the second Darius, the inheritance that you may want to get are Drain X, because this will recover HP if he's getting hit too much, but I don't think it's needed. And from his S style, he has Savage Slash, that is a fast AoE attack that buffs STR, so he can actually help a little with support by buffing STR of his allies. But in the end, Darius is still a very nice character, it's just that he is not really needed for what he's trying to offer. Cover capabilities are being less and less useful, and the block shield can be better than Final Impress, but not always, and we don't use that much anyway. So Darius, by having access to this gimmick, will receive a triple S grade, but it's still kind of easy to skip. Well, Darius has an X style from JP, and he is kind of a very interesting buffer, with a skill that buffs both STR and Dexterity by 30%, and he can also buff it again passively by 15% every turn. He also has a skill that gives hit up to the party and apply defense up to himself, and can sometimes attack with this skill that gives morale up to the party to increase damage in specific turns. Well, he's a character that can change between support, damage, and tanking. The last character is Candy, and Candy has very low damage output, as you can see, 102 STR, 118 agility, because martial artists always have this. Endurance and Will are okay, with intelligence being pretty high because he likes to debuff. Talking about passive, the first one is called Brandish Claws. When being directly attacked, he has a 50% chance to counter with Scratch attack. This is a blunt and slash attack with 8 power, and it has a chance to debuff both STR and Dexterity by 15%. That's because it's rank 1. Well, 50% chance to trigger a counter that debuffs to status. It's actually pretty nice. There's also a second part. When landing in an attack, you have 50% chance to chase with the same skill, Scratch Attack. But it cannot trigger from the counter itself. So only when you are manually issuing a command, so you can have that 15% debuff to STR and Dexterity. That's actually pretty interesting, right? 50% chance when acting and 50% chance when countering. So, second passive, he has a Halcyon that debuffs STR and Dexterity by 5% and also recovers BP by 1 when attacking. That's a guaranteed debuff, it does not care about intelligence. So that 15% actually became 20, and he always gets BP even when countering. That's actually nice. The last one is Latent Bloom Attack. When attacked, damage taken will be reduced by 25% and also grants himself Heat Up, increasing damage potential by 10% for a max of 5 times per battle. It's his only damage potential, and he's not even close to Medea in terms of power, and has only 1 damage reduction, enough to keep him alive. Now for skills, the first one is Light Key Blast. This is a full AoE attack with E power that is free, does not cost any BP, but it doesn't have any additional effect. Even Medea and Tatyana characters with similar design have some effect with the first skill, but Candy doesn't. The second one is the skill that you get as a chase and as a counter attack, Scratch Attack, but here, because you can level up to 99, it will debuff 20% Dexterity and STR, and you get the extra 5% by passive debuffing 25. And then you have the extra 50% chance to debuff again by 20. Meaning that, with good luck, when using Scratch Attack, you can debuff 45% STR and Dexterity. That's extremely high if a boss allows you to debuff. Because, we have to remember, many bosses have Defy Weakness. And it depends kind of on the behavior of the boss. Sometimes, if Candy is too fast and debuffs before an enemy attack, well, a boss may just check the debuff values, and if they are too high, it will just use Defy Weakness on the start of a turn, invalidating everything that Candy did. But there are bosses that do something else. They use Defy Weakness by the end of a turn. In those cases, Candy will be helpful by going first, debuffing the enemy before he attacks, and even if a boss removes debuffs by the end of a turn, you can reapply again on the next turn, since Candy will always have VP to keep using Scratch Attack most of the time. Then the last skill is Round and Round Strike. This is a single target attack with triple S power and blunt damage. It carries a special effect of applying Guard Down Medium to a target that lasts 3 turns. Well, it may look good, but decreasing the defense of an enemy by 25% usually translates into 10% damage increase, nothing more than that. But since it will work for all your damage dealers, this can help a little. It's just so that you can use it before Overdrive, so to increase the damage potential when you are close to killing a boss, because Candy is here just to use Scratch Attack and keep using this as much as possible. Now, as inheritance from his summer style, you can get Sharing Fruit. This is a 3BP 1LP recovery skill that can revive and will also buff status augment resistance. There is also Ice Cream Break, that is an attack that will recover everyone's HP by around 200 and buff the status elements resistance too, so that you will have to rely on the chase to get your STR and Dexterity debuff and give some extra effects to the character. May work, but I think it's more for those bosses that don't like to get too debuffed, and this can decrease the debuffs from Candy. And from his UDX style, there is Sweet Party, 9 VP skill that will also self-heal, so depending on the situations, Candy may want to get self-healed. He's not as defensive as we wanted him to be. Well, Candy competes directly with the latest version of Tatyana, because she's also an STR and Dexterity debuffer. She has 3 different chases. One with 25%, the second with 37%, and the other one with 50% chance to trigger. Going from the strongest attack to the weakest, she also has area attacks. So Hammer Bop will debuff just STR by 15%, but it is for all enemies. She can also debuff STR and Dexterity by 20%, but for all enemies. And the last skill can debuff STR and Dexterity by 30%, but for column of enemies. See that they are similar, but Tatyana can cover a better area of enemies. And, well, if you have one, you don't need the another. Tatyana has better defensive capabilities because of self-healing, and Candy has more utility via inheritance. But both are inferior to Medea, because she's just amazing. Well, I failed to get her, but she has 3 different chases as well, much like Tatyana, and she debuffs STR and Intelligence. Intelligence is a much better status to debuff because it will allow you to evade getting inflicted with ailments, evade being debuffed. And you know that most bosses will try to inflict some sort of ailments. She also has Moralidade Medium that she can keep up to decrease damage taken by 25%, so even when she cannot debuff, she can do damage and still decrease damage taken. She also has much more damage with 150% passives versus only 50 from Candy. But that's why Candy is not as important, and we receive only an SS Plus grade as a debuffer, much like Tatyana. But in the end, we don't use debuffers as much. We still need them here and there, but there's so many versions of debuffers that you can just easily find alternatives nowadays. Rock Bouquet debuffs all status, a Spell Girl debuffs all status, and well, usually they should be enough. Unless a boss just tries to self-buff way too many times, but then you will have to buff break instead of trying to debuff too much. And the same characters I mentioned it, Rock Bouquet and Spell Girl can do it as well. Well, Candy has a future style. He's gonna be released together with the protagonists, Leon, Darius, and Medea. So many people will get him by accident, but this style is actually pretty bad. He has a skill that buffs will and do damage, has a strong roll attack that he can actually use many times because he recovers BP by the end of a turn if he does not take damage, but that's it, he's just a farmer. Now back to the banner image. Is this banner worth summoning for? Well, yes and no. I'll be giving this silver award. Why? Because it depends on what you already have. If you already have, for example, Leon, and you don't feel like you need the next version of Leon, okay, just keep Leon and go for Final Empress. If you are missing out on heavy support, like I said, from Gustave, from Undine, and if you don't have that Final Empress with the shield, you can get some utility from this Darius. And if you miss it out on any of the debuffers, like Tatyana and Medea, Candy can still help here and there depending on the situations. But I still believe that this banner offers less value overall than Leon and Enya's banner. It's more about what you are lacking, but if you are a fan of the characters, there's no problem pulling here. But if you are a newcomer and you also won't have access to the Christmas version of Final Empress, I believe this banner will have lower value to you. Well, try to pull on Leon's, it gives much more value. I decided to skip as well because I already covered most of what is offered here. So that's my opinion. What is yours? Please say here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope to see you soon in the next one. Bye.